Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of Setting the Standard. Today is our first episode that we're doing on YouTube, and I'm really excited for this. Obviously, the people that I'm interviewing in most of these episodes, they're not used to being on camera. They're not maybe comfortable with it, which is totally understandable. So not every episode is going to be on video going forward. But if the people are open to it, I certainly am, and I think it's a fun way for you guys as well to connect with the people that I'm chatting with. So today, we're interviewing somebody that you guys probably all already know. If you're on Instagram, there's a good chance you've heard of him. His name's John Sorich, also goes by Johnny Oro. He is one of my biggest inspirations in this industry, so this is an absolute pleasure for me to do. I've been looking forward to it since I started the podcast. Long story short, he was actually the first person I interviewed almost, I think, mid last year now, and the interview I just felt was not of the quality that I wanted to put out there. So we've been trying to get a time in the books to re-record it. We finally did now. I'm really happy to share this one with you guys. It's really good. It's my longest one yet. I know a few people have been asking for longer episodes, so hopefully this is going to be nice for you guys. I'm really hoping to get back into that cadence that I was on and releasing an episode I think every week is probably not feasible for me. I just have too much going on. And at the moment, this show is completely unpaid. Each episode takes something like 4 to 5 hours between scheduling, recording, planning, editing, uploading, promoting, all that kind of things. So for the time being, it's just going to have to come out when I can manage it. And unfortunately, that's it. If you guys do want to support, the best thing you can be doing is leaving us reviews, sharing these with your friends. You can share them on your social media channels. Anything that gets the name out there, that gets more eyes on it, will definitely help the show to grow. And we'll see where we can go from there, whether I can start bringing you guys more consistent shows. If you're listening to this show, I'm assuming you're interested in diamond setting or at least jewelry making in general. If that's the case, definitely go check out my website. I've got some cool stuff on there now. I've got a full list of the tools that I use every day when I'm working. I've got a nice little conversion chart, diamond size to millimeter. I'm working on some more stuff like that you guys can download all for free. I'm moving into making some online courses. My first one's coming out this month. It's all about fishtail diamond setting. If you guys are interested in that, definitely go check out the link below. It'll take you over to my website, tell you all about that course. Really looking forward to getting that out, and I hope everybody's going to love it. I believe they will. It's coming along really nicely. And other than that, let's dive right into the show. Chat soon. All right, here we go. Hello, and welcome, Johnny. How are you doing today?
Hey, Ian, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
Brilliant. No, I'm glad to have you on, man. Glad to finally get you back after all this time.
It's been a while, but we're back, and it's beginning to be winter here in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Yeah, you got snow already?
Oh, it's been snowing it snowed the entire week except for one day. So, yeah.
Better you than me. All right, so start us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I am John Sorich IV. My family business is Diamonds Direct in Minneapolis, Minnesota since 1981. My background is I am a goldsmith, a diamond setter, a hand engraver, graduate gemologist, and I design jewelry at my family business. So yeah, I have been, I suppose the jewelry trade journey started 10 years ago. And so, yeah, I've been working at my family business since 2016. A little bit before that, I would come back and work during the busy season for a couple months. But I was living in Italy at that time, and I was finishing my studies. And so, yeah. But, so I'm here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and what else can I say?
Nice. So did your family have the shop when you were growing up as well then?
Yeah, I grew up with it, always there. It was the family store, and I mean, it started off by me, being the one to dust and, like vacuum and stuff like that, and clean glass. But that's where it all started. And then my dad was always the business owner and running the business. And he was always telling me, don't bother the goldsmiths, don't go in there, it's dangerous. And there are a lot of dangerous things. There's sharp, objects and chemicals, but it was always one of those things that as a kid, I was very curious to kind of be like, how does wax turn into gold, and so it was pretty cool to, I had a couple of goldsmiths when I was young, that allowed me to like see what they're doing and stuff like that. So yeah. And one of them let me play her Pac-Man game, the old school. Before Game Boy, it was like a toggle up, down, and a toggle left, right. And that's where I have my loop right in front of me, and that's where I started. I did the Johnny Oro Pac-Man loop. Yeah, so this is my jeweler's loop. On one side is Pac-Man, on the other side is, there's my name with a bunch of small diamonds and gold inlay.
The one from your Instagram picture.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. All right, so what was it like in between, like being there on the shop floor as a kid to sort of starting? Because you said you were in 2016.
Yeah, because when I was young, I always looked at it as sales, and I never looked at it as a creative outlet. I guess when you look at like the 80s and the 90s in the jewelry industry, it was very much just like, a different sort of clientele at that point in the world. So I think a lot of people were, especially in Minnesota, it was the land of white gold and channel set diamonds. It was like not much frills, not much, interest, but I never looked at it as a creative outlet. And I wish, in hindsight, it's always 2020, but I really wish I would have, pursued that at a younger age. But instead, I decided to go into criminal justice, and I did juvenile probation work for 3 years full time. And instead of working with violent teenagers, now I make jewelry, and I'm much happier. Yeah.
No kidding. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what sort of led you down the path of, because you started with engraving and then the diamond setting. So like, how did you get onto those paths, and how did you sort of find your way into specializing in those?
Yeah. My base goldsmith course was in Vicenza, Italy, and I found that school just by traveling there and visiting the school, because I knew of Vicenza Oro, and my family, was encouraging me to become a goldsmith. At that time, I was looking at a career change. I was 28, and so I decided to go ahead and look at the school. School was awesome. It was a 4-month course at that time, and it was full-time. And I think I paid €630 for that course, which was just like, it's a government school. It's a trade school. So it was literally like an arts and crafts school. So my training started there, and I did my foundational courses, sawing, filing, all these things, soldering, making wire, making, tubing from sheet. Everything that you made was made from sheet metal or wire. And so then from that, I did a stone setting week. And the stone setting week, we had to make our own gravers, our own tools. I have a graver right in front of me. But you get to carve little shapes, and that was kind of the introduction of, okay, now we're going to stone set. And I was like, this is really satisfying. I loved drawing when I was a young boy, and then all the way up into high school, I went pretty far into drawing. But anyway, I never looked at it as like a super viable career path, because no one at that age looked at, the seniors and said, you can be a professional artist, which I wish someone would have, but no one did. And so I decided to go to school. And when I did the engraving in the stone setting class, I just really, it came to me, and I really adapted it. And I thought, boy, I could bring this into drawing, and I could, engrave the drawings and make art out of that. And then obviously stone setting part was a whole nother thing, because at the time it was all looking over the shoulder. It wasn't anything to do with like a trinocular where you're able to see exactly what the professor's doing. It was like, look over my shoulder, and we're all wearing optivisors. So it was difficult to start off. But yeah, then I discovered Sam Alfano's Engravers Cafe.
Yep.
And I started to read Sam Alfano's page like in the mornings. And then one morning I saw something to the effect of he had wrote, if you want to be a world-class diamond setter, this is the course to begin with. And it was Alexander School. It was that first YouTube video that they came out with. And I probably watched it like all morning again and again. I was just obsessed. I was like, this is so cool. I can't believe this is a real thing.
Right.
And so I contacted the school, and at that time there was a waiting list, but it wasn't terribly long. And I had some military training to go back to the statesides to do. So I had made plans to do it in 2015, and that's where it was. So I did my my foundational goldsmith courses, and then I apprenticed for hand engraving. And then about a year after being in the middle of my apprenticeship, I went to Alexander School, and I'm very glad that I had that engraving background, because I knew the light, how to, bring the tool to the work and how to do those light cuts. And it just helped me a lot, I think, initially from stone setting. So, yeah.
That's awesome. What's the structure of your business at the moment now? What would you say is the split of your retail work that you guys are doing with your shop? Are you doing any trade? And how much are you teaching at the moment?
Yeah. Well, right now it is December. No, it's not December. It's November 21st, and we are in full swing of filling orders for Christmas. And so I'm not teaching at the moment, and I will definitely begin teaching again in the new year. But for right now, we're in the middle of a lot. I'm the president of the company, and we are expanding our workshop to accommodate another goldsmith, and then also a larger workshop I want to have 2 student benches. And right now I'm in a pretty small space, room for about 2 people. And so we're expanding the workshop, and we're updating our showroom, and we're getting new cases. So got a bunch going on. So on top of that, I'm not teaching very much. And when I do teach, it's mostly me going to different locations for the past few months.
Gotcha. Brilliant. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
So back to sort of your transition into the stone setting, like how exactly would you say that the hand push background helped you get into the more modern stone setting that you're doing?
The hand push background did help a lot. I would say the learning curve on hand push engraving is immense, because not only are you driving the tool yourself, so you have to learn that light amount of medium kind of pressure, because you don't want to be too profound or too light, or else you'll slip. Mm-hmm. But another thing is you are hand sharpening everything with an Arkansas stone and emery paper. And so that was just understanding how, without any handouts or really much, I had a couple books on hand engraving.
Yeah.
And, the most recent book, like the Jewelry Engraver's Handbook, it's written in the 50s. So it's in drastic need for updating. But they even, I think, referenced the Graver Meister or something like that, and it was like the first pneumatic system that they had back then.
Yeah.
But now it's totally different with my background for hand push. It was learning the old school way, which absolutely helped me a lot understand how to use the Graver Max and carbide tools, and how to get a nice clean cut. But like I said, the learning curve was significant. I was going home after my lessons with my engraving master, and I would be engraving for hours by myself, in copper and in zinc. And so I actually have a ring that my professor engraved for me. Let's see how close we can get, but it's a dragon, and there's this little wing.
Oh,
and this
wow.
is all hand push. This is all hand push engraved. And so I learned from Michele Grigio in Padova, Italy, in Veneto. And he changed my life. Absolutely. I was able to see Michele. My most recent trip to Italy was in September and October, and I taught 2 one-week classes, and I was able to thank him and let him know, like, I don't know where I would be without you. So that was really awesome to see him again.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
So if you were speaking to somebody who wanted to get into specifically the diamond setting now, would you recommend that they do hand push first? Suppose money's an issue and they can't afford the microscope. Is it worth doing the hand push first, or is it just best to save up and go all in?
Oh, man. I think if you save up and go all in without having kind of a little bit of a taste at first, I think that there's some great options for people that are interested but not sure how much time they can put into it. Let's say you have a family or you don't have a great deal of money saved up to invest in tools. You can absolutely go to a class like GRS or another school that is going to have a little bit of an experience for you, like a 1-week class. And you can get a really good taste of what engraving is like. And what the pneumatic systems do is it takes that learning curve away from not understanding how to maneuver the angle of your placement of your wrist and plowing through the metal. It's a huge learning curve for hand push, but the pneumatic systems allow you a novice to sit down behind a microscope and actually get some very successful cuts right off the bat. And then the other thing is just knowing how to sharpen your tools, because you can sit down with all of the tools and have everything, and then you still can't start because you're not even sure how to prepare the tools that you invested in. So I would definitely say having some sort of structured class to give a taste for yourself is the more viable option. If you have a lot of time to read, to look at different engraving forms, you can absolutely find on YouTube people explaining how to sharpen engravers and how to do some very beginning cuts. I actually have a couple of tools just next to me that I thought would be good for reference. Like, this is a leather sandbag, and if you place just a copper plate on top of the leather sandbag and hold it, you can actually, engrave a little bit with a hand push tool. So what does this cost? Maybe $15 and $5 and another maybe $10. So that is, I think, often overlooked. You can also, I used to take masking tape and I would tape it to a block of wood instead of using and just hold the block of wood as I was engraving, rather than a ball vise. And I have my first engraving vise, the Pepe tools, and this thing's like, gosh, it's like 20 pounds. Anyway, so there's a ton of like bells and whistles that you can get, but I find that if you can get that structured class at first and get a good taste of, is this something I want to pursue and go further with, then that would be that opportunity for you.
Yeah, perfect. So do you have any favorite jobs or jobs that you've worked on in the past that come to mind?
I love being able to combine stone setting with engraving. I love that. And whether it's an engagement ring or a fashion piece or something that's significant, like a signet ring, that's more of like a symbol of the client's, ideas. I love being able to do that because it really makes me feel like humble that how far, I've come in the jewelry world. It's often very easy for us to be our own worst critics. And I think once you get some jobs that really you're like, I got this, this is going to turn out great, and the customer's going to be very happy. It's those jobs that you can combine things that you feel the most comfortable doing. But yeah, actually, I have a photo of it's my business card picture of it. This was a Greek Athena signet ring that I did. It was in 22 karat gold, and it was an intaglio wax seal ring. So It was for a customer that lived in Greece for a significant amount of time, and he fell in love with this Greek woman. And this ring that he saw, he's like, it's always reminded me of my time in Greece. Can you make this? And it was like something in a museum in St. Petersburg that he saw. And I'm like, we can try. And at the time, I was actually still like at the very end of my apprenticeship with Michele in Vicenza, Italy. So I hand carried the ring back with me to Italy. And I worked on it for a couple months with Michele, and the result was just like awesome, because it was something that I had never, done before, and having him being able to help me through that process, the result was awesome. So that was all hand push engraved. And
It's amazing.
Surprisingly enough, which graver do you think you'd use for the majority of that?
I mean, I don't know, like a flat?
A round. You're just digging with a round. It's just like incredibly. I mean, 22 karat is like butter, but the round graver plows through it, and once you get down to depth, it's a lot of round gravers and just different sizes of them, and being able to use the tools to essentially just carve out the inside. But the cool thing, the really cool thing about doing a wax seal ring is you'll have a small piece of like plasticine, which is basically like Play-Doh. And as you're engraving it, you can push that into the engraving, and you can look at it and you can see like, how are we doing? And, like see the engraving like come to life, which is so unique of any other engraving. There's no way to kind of be like, how is the finished product going to look kind of thing. And just double check to make sure that your work is doing well. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what would you say would be your favorite types of metal or stones to work with? And this can be for engraving and setting, like whatever you want to say. And then also the counter to that, what would you say is like the worst metal to set or engrave in? Or the worst stones?
Yeah. Oh God. Well, so I think the lower carats of gold are very stubborn, and they can sometimes cause issues just with the finishing. But and then also just if you're gonna engrave them, they can also be a little bit more difficult to work with. But my favorite is 18 karat yellow, and that's without a doubt what I would prefer to stone set, to engrave, to do everything with. I think just the final product looks very rich, and it elevates the whole piece by having a much more buttery gold rather than it being white or whatever. White gold, I love. It's just sometimes especially with colored stones, that 18 karat yellow it brings such an elevated, prestige to the piece.
Absolutely.
If I'm gonna pick a gemstone, I guess I would say fancy colored diamonds. I love fancy colored diamonds because you don't have to be super on the edge of your seat setting them, and try not to. I've set Paraiba tourmaline. I've set emerald. I've set some very soft like shell and all these other things. It's like you're always at the mercy of whatever's going on inside the stone that most of the time you can't see. And with diamonds, it's almost foolproof. But I love sapphire as well. I love rubies. And yeah, if I was gonna say my favorite metals, 18 karat yellow, and for a white metal it would be platinum. So yeah, platinum engraves beautifully, and I love when you have a platinum ring that has like a nice like satin brushed finish on it, and you engrave some bright cut lines on top. That contrast, it almost looks like it's been inked from certain directions because of the flash of the light.
Oh yeah, such a good contrast.
Yeah.
So do you use casting in your work as well?
Yeah, I do. And whenever I can, I'm always using a solid piece. So even if we are casting it, I will have, it cast as like a solid, piece. And that way there's less porosity, and there's less risk of, there being maybe, as you're engraving or as you're stone setting, there's a giant pocket of porosity. So I still will have, the diamond setting done by hand and hand cut, because I just find it polishes up nicer. It's much more uniform, and sometimes it's just a price point for the customers. So rather than starting from, every part of it being fabricated, you'd have to, just for the price point, you'd have to have the casting element in there. But yeah,
For sure.
there's a lot of things that just casting. There's so many things to consider and so many things that can go wrong.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
Yeah. All right. You do a lot of fishtail. Like you're always posting fishtail rings. You're doing colored stones. You're doing so much of it. Tell me how that came to be, because obviously, like, there's demand for it, and like, what's the reception been like in the store and everything?
It's been very good, and people love. I'm wearing my my French set ring. People love low profile. They love a little bit of flash on the side, and having a beautiful setting in general is what people desire. You can pump up your own engraving work by, having a little bit of that decorative pattern on the side. So whether it's a castle set or French set, I think that people that want something a little bit more unique, they see that, and when it's hand cut, it's totally different than, I'm sure you've seen, cast fishtail and that sort of stuff. It looks literally like fingers.
Yeah.
And they're dull and everything's polished and it's rounded out. But when you see like the nice split with a sharp graver and it's, got that mirror finish on it, it's awesome. So when I was at Alexander School, it was one of those things that's like just another step in what you learn. And I don't know what compelled me, but I did a couple of rings bands when I was at the store. And I think that was one that was sold like immediately. And so I made another one. And then it's at the point where it's like, I can't keep up. And we've been doing this for years. And I could make probably a whole business on just French set rings, because, I've set all the way up to half carat size, like in French sets. So yeah.
Unreal.
I know you've got some big ones too that you've done. And it's like, one of them is like setting 14 center stones. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it gets a little hectic. I've definitely thought of going cast for some of those, to be honest, because it's just it becomes excavation. Like partly cast would be the idea, but it's literally like the amount of cutting. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Partly cast would be acceptable. Yeah, and I mean, if you're gonna do certain, like, I don't know, can you get a solid ring that big in platinum anyway? You're probably going to have to cast that.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair assumption. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's talk about the Florentine finishes that you use, because those are just amazing. And I don't really see almost anybody else doing those. Tell me about the history there, and then the specific graver choices that you use, and any tips you have for applying that.
When I lived in Italy, I lived very close to Marco Bicego, and Marco Bicego is an Italian designer in Trestino, Italy, which is just north of Vicenza. And it's a small village of like people that work in the jewelry industry. But at their facility, I went to tour it. A friend got me a tour. They had like 4 engravers at one table, just a ton of 18 karat yellow gold just on the table, and all different shapes and different sizes and different amounts of assembly. And they were all working like mad with their gravers, holding them just with their hands and just engraving it on a little wooden bench peg. And they were Florentine finishing it with these very fine Florentine gravers. And I said, so can I try? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so I sat down and I started doing it a little bit, and they're like, yeah, hey, he could work here. As like I was with a tour, there was another guy from Colombia that like owned a jewelry store, doesn't do any bench jewelry work, and I think he was basically like kind of trying to figure out, how did that guy just do that? Like, he didn't know my background or anything, but anyway. I thought that's a beautiful way to kind of show that the way that the light captures and hits the surface and reflects, it's one of the most difficult things to photograph is making Florentine finish look like it does in person, which most jewelry, when you're taking pictures of small reflective tiny things, it's very difficult to get a nice photograph, but it's one of those finishes that you have to see in person. And when you do different styles of Florentine finish, you can make it flash like the whole surface lights up, or part of it, or from two different directions there's different reflections, and it's just a very unique way to finish jewelry. And you go to Florence, you see it everywhere. It's on the Ponte Vecchio.
Really?
It's in all of the shops. They have the goldsmiths, and I guess historically, I don't know how they did Florentine finish that long ago, but the old way of polishing gold was always burnishing it. So I imagine it probably started from some way of possibly doing it in that sort of method. But the Florentine finish was made famous by the Florentine goldsmiths at that time. And I don't know how long we're talking, but I'm not a goldsmith historian, but I think you can definitely probably look back in Italian history. That would definitely be one of those finishes that from a very early time was popular.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when you're applying this, because I've read online, I've still never tried it myself yet.
Yeah.
I've read online though that there's different qualities of gravers, and then
Yeah.
you need to get a certain line count and everything.
Yeah, I have tools that I use that are more fine and tools that are more profound. So the first number is going to denote how many lines there are in the liner graver. Yep. And then the other one, I can't remember what it goes up to, denotes the fineness to how profound the tool is for larger cuts. So you tend to see finer things on smaller pieces and more profound things on like a wedding band, like a thick band. But obviously it's as nice. People always ask, how long does Florentine finish last? And it's like, well, that's depending on how nice that person is to their own jewelry. Because I've seen Florentine finishes that are from the 40s and 50s and they're still there. But then at the same time, you show someone a wedding band that you sold like a couple of years ago, and it just hasn't been taken care of because they're working out in it, or they're gardening in it, and they're doing all these kinds of crazy things, or they're just very rough on their jewelry. So you have probably two different main ways to engrave. You either do parallel lines all lining up the same, or you do a crosshatch pattern that they would intersect. And so the one that I do the most is the crosshatch one. But occasionally I'll set the stone, and then around the center stone, Florentine everything. So it's like if it's in a geometric kind of cut, like a step cut, emerald or something like that, then we can have the Florentine finish kind of complement the gemstone, and it really looks like a beautiful frame of the setting. And it just, the light captures, the light hits the gold in a totally different way than any other finish. So, yeah.
And did you have any brand names of those liner gravers that you recommend specifically?
You know what? They're all old new stock. I've never seen like a company that is nowadays manufacturing them. I think that the machinery for that stuff, I don't even know. E.C. Muller is one that I know off the top of my head, but I couldn't tell you other ones. And there's various different graver manufacturers that are simply out of business. So most of the time that I have bought them, they've been new old stock from like jewelry tool suppliers. Yeah.
All right.
But whenever you see them, buy them up, because you never know when the next opportunity is that you're going to be able to get them. They are expensive. Of all the gravers, you see that those things carry a heavy price. Sometimes like one graver will be like $40. But you're
But I
gonna get
mean,
a lot of use out of it.
yeah, that's what I would have expected. That's what I would have
Yeah.
expected. All right.
And so the number of lines that it makes, if you have a wider band, obviously use a wider graver because it's going to take less time. But then if you have a piece that you have to do a lot of very delicate cuts, you might only go down to maybe 4 or 6 lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk just a little bit about your lettering engraving, because your lettering is I mean, of sort of the people that I see pop up on my Instagram, you've definitely got probably my favorite lettering.
Oh man, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Oh no, I appreciate that.
What you don't realize, and what I tell my students, is that secretly, as an engraver, when you sign up to be an engraver, what you don't realize you've also signed up for is calligraphy class. And you for sure, can practice calligraphy on a daily basis as a jeweler if you decide to. But just like anything else, it's a skill, and I have worked on it for years, and it all goes from learning script and learning Roman. And Roman, it's easy to do straight lines and serifs, but the script, that's a whole nother thing. And being able to gracefully make it look in a pleasing way that all matches, because very often people will handwrite it and it doesn't have too many things that's similar that maybe you could improve on. So whenever I can, I look for calligraphy books that I really enjoy, and I'm always practicing. And at work, obviously, I know this sounds weird, I'm more accurate with my graver than with my pencil. If I'm, hand cutting the piece, it's going to be way more accurate than when I do something by pencil. It's just simply a guide. So
yeah, I see that. I can see how that works for sure.
That repetition, you'd fill a whole plate of beauty stems or a specific shape of a cut.
Okay.
And that would be how you'd build all these letters. So, but yeah, there's so many amazing engravers out there that do beautiful lettering, and just talk to them. They're going to tell you it all starts with a pencil.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's something I'd love to find the time to do.
It does take a ton of time.
One day. My one question I had specifically regarding that is, I see other guys who do a lot of lettering, specifically Sam Alfano, because I've seen his instructional DVDs, and he uses a flat for letters, and it looks to me like you're using a 120. Can you tell me about the reasoning there and why you do that?
I'll give you a story too. It was in April. I went out to GRS, or no, you know what? It was last October, so it was a year ago. I went out to GRS. And I did a small demonstration while I was there, because I was out there to be interviewed to be an instructor. And they had Sam Alfano's class going on, and Lane Zolke was also teaching a class. And I sat down and I showed them, how I did letters on the inside of a ring. And as I was cutting it, Sam was watching, and he goes, You're beveling the opposite direction than what is kind of traditionally taught and done. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, I like the results that you're getting. I might have to steal that. And I'm like, okay, all right, good.
Oh, that's amazing.
Sam. But it's interesting. Lane Zolke, another great friend of mine, he recommends, if you're going to practice lettering or if you're going to practice engraving, stick to one graver for 1 year and just use that, and then know how to use that tool very well. Because often people will be like, I'm going to get a 105, I'm going to get a 90, I'm going to get a 120, I'm going to do all these, and I'm going to get a flat, and then I'm going to, learn engraving. And it's like, but learn how to command that 120 or that 105 really well, and just stick to that. And then you get a real nice consistency of knowing how to roll the graver, how to transition curves. It takes a lot of time. And if I could give one piece of advice, I would echo Lane Zolke's advice of using a 120 or a 105 for a year, and just knowing how to use that. But the flat graver, I gotta tell you that I can remember. I don't remember doing any lettering with a flat graver other than as an apprentice and reading books and being like, oh, this is how lettering is done, because you're using the corner of it. So rather than like, I mean, if this is the flat graver, you're using just this part here. So that's basically a 120. So you could absolutely say just use that. And for all of my inside ring engravings, other than a few specific cases, the lion's share of it is done with a 120.
Wild. Gotta try some of that.
Yeah, you should. It's
all
fun.
Right. All right. I appreciate that, man.
I can tell you this. My father has been a jeweler for 50 years, and he said engraving the inside of a ring used to be just a normal step in the process. It would go, to casting, to finishing, to stone setting, and then it would be sent to the engraver to get personalized. And I think what happened was everyone got the little scribe tool that goes on the inside of the ring.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, it'll be engraved, but it's just scratched with this little scribe. So that's not engraving, that's scratching. And so the inside ring was always, just done in the shop all of a sudden. And so probably a lot of the engravers just were dried up, their inside ring engraving work. But it's having a definite revival because I can tell you people's faces just light up when they see, their initials and their, a special date or a term of endearment, and inside their wedding band, it personalizes it. And it's one of those things that only they know it's there. And people often, will ask me, about, little details. And I'm like, yeah, but that person knows it's there. And that's what's special to them about it. So, yeah.
Nice. That's brilliant, man.
Mm-hmm.
So in our speaking together outside of this podcast, we've talked a little bit about Grünberger diamonds and China stone.
Grünberger right here. Micro.
Yeah, there you go.
Grünberger.
So I'd love to know if you, because I've seen some of their price lists. I'd love to know if off the top of your head you have some sort of idea what sort of premium you pay for those over what might be considered sort of standard diamond and gemstone costs, and then why you choose to pay that premium. Like what makes it worth it to you?
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you what that premium would be because I get all of my Melly from Grünberger, and here's
Gotcha.
why.
Okay.
My work is sped up with consistency, and if I don't have to worry about a different girdle thickness or a different crown or pavilion depth, then that speeds my work up, because when I use uncalibrated Melly, like I'm using a customer's diamonds or something like that, you have various different cuts, and it doesn't look the same, or it doesn't look consistent, because when all of them are cut the same and you have a ton of them, you can definitely see the difference in your work, and it's going to elevate your work. So whenever I can, I'm able to. Another thing that Grünberger does that's awesome, and in more companies should do this, is very good customer service. So I know that when I order something specific, the benefits being, and whenever you're using calibrated gemstones, that it speeds up your work, that you don't have to worry about crown angle, pavilion depth, girdle thickness.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of that is gonna match up to. You're consistently, everything's on the same depth and the same, height. You don't want things going all like that. You want to have consistency, and so it speeds my work up. So I don't have to worry about when I order 2 millimeter. I know that it's coming within my, specifications within, 5/100ths of a millimeter or, a tenth of a millimeter. That they're all going to be stones that I'm going to be able to go much faster with. And same goes for China stone. China stone does beautiful colored stones, and my experience with them has been their cuts are top. Absolutely.
Oh, they're unreal.
Their color combinations. I have this little book that shows all the different colors that you can order, and it's like a little paint chip book. You can just figure out what color you want just from the book. So it's pretty cool. And I think that they're opening a location in DC, which is going to be exciting for goldsmiths in the US, because they used to be shipping from Bangkok, Thailand. And so that's a much different price point for shipping. So
yeah, that'll be a game changer for the small,
Yeah.
like when you need a small lot, eh?
shipping, well, I mean, if you're shipping a lot, then that adds up at the end of the year, doesn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Cool, man. Well, thank you for that. So you've seen some massive Instagram growth recently. What, to put it lightly?
I can't believe it.
So what would you attribute that to? And can you give us some pointers on sort of content creation or your thought process in what you've been putting out there that you think might have led to this?
Yeah. My partner works in PR, and so he is very good at messaging and very good at communicating, and showing, images and stuff like that. So when he saw my Instagram, he's like, yeah, your Instagram's really cool. You should start doing reels. And I'm like, oh God, here goes another thing that I have to learn. And so I tried to do one, and it took me like an hour. And he's like, okay, well, you have to orient, like the video has to be like, it has to be, oriented. So when people are watching the phone, it's not like there's two giant black boxes at the top. And so I changed the video, and he's like, okay, well, why did you pick this music? I'm like, I don't know, I just picked it randomly. He's like, well, the music is really important, and you have to also do the transitions with the beat of the music and all that stuff. That's what people like. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot. And so, but you just get good at it eventually. I have my trinocular, so if I'm making a video, believe it or not, I'm actually videoing with my iPhone the screen in which I'm, displaying on the monitor what's in my trinocular. So I use that video, and then I also use some videos of me holding, the piece of jewelry, maybe twirling it around in the light. And between those two combinations, I'm able to make the reels. And reels is what has just blasted my Instagram account. And so when I started making reels more often, it was just, okay, I'm going to make one this week, and it's going to be this project that I'm working on. And it just seemed like, I was just doing another little coin in the bucket. Like, it'll fill up eventually. But for whatever reason, sometimes you think you're going to make a video that's like, man, this is going to get a lot of attention, and it just flops. So you have to just take a deep breath and be like, you know what? Just got to keep showing up. And
That's
so,
right.
So I was doing them, and for some reason, this one video that I did using a customer's diamonds, and I handmade the setting, but I just showed it to completion. It got like 3 million views, and that's what just like my Instagram just blew up. I couldn't believe, I literally went from, I think I had 40K, and I had like within a couple months I had another 40K, and I couldn't believe it. And it's just been steadily growing since then. And yeah, I think my Instagram now is at 100,000, and I think it's purely because Reels is what I've adapted to.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's a really cool story. Now, with that growth, like, have you seen sort of a proportional increase in business or inquiries, sales specifically?
A lot of inquiries. And for me, it's hard for me to really manage this, because I'm doing this all by myself. So I'm at the point now where I'm like, boy, do I have one of my employees help manage the jobs? But a lot of what it has gone down to is, fortunately, we have a storefront and a business, and I have employees. So I've said, here's my assistant, and, email them or call the store and, say, this is what I'm looking for. And, so I do have a team of people that are able to help me, but getting to that point is more difficult than I thought, because I don't have a website right now that is e-commerce that you can just, click, click, drop it in the basket. But what we do have is a much more customized relationship with our customers. And I find that people come back to us for that customer service. And for the people that don't offer customer service, there's, I'm not going to name names, but there's other big brand jewelry stores in our neighborhood. And, when they order an engagement ring and it needs to be sized, and they tell them that it's a 6-week turnaround to get it sized, the ring that you just bought for, a lot of money, most people, this is a very significant purchase for them.
Oh yeah.
And, then they come to our store and we have it in their hand, in a week. They're like, wow, I think I'm going to come here next time. So, yeah.
Brilliant. All right. Let's see here. Sorry, mate. So what was your experience like teaching at GRS and at the Italian school, and do you intend to continue teaching in the future?
I'm absolutely going to continue teaching. It's been a lot of energy and a lot of very enthusiastic people that really, I feed off of that. I want people to be excited because I'm excited to show them. And I remember what it was like to be at that stage where you're like, gosh, I'm almost there, like I just hit my stride. And I think that for me, like traveling and everything, it's a lot of fun, but it's a major toll to be like getting on flights,
a big commitment,
and staying in hotels and that sort of stuff. It's can be lonely. It can also be just really exciting and fun because you meet so many interesting people, and they all are coming from a different background. So you're able to learn from those students as well. And I think it's a great opportunity for me to have in my life, to be able to pass on what was very graciously, taught to me. And I can't say enough good things about my instructors that I learned from. They absolutely invested time in me because they were passionate about doing it. And I mean, gosh, I come from my engraving background of my professor in Italy is from an unbroken chain of engravers since, the beginning of engraving in the 1400s. So it's pretty cool to think like you're a part of a story of, art that has been carried on for this long. And will it continue? It's up to you.
That's awesome. What do you wish somebody had told you when you first started out?
Oh man. It's a very good question. I think be patient. Be patient because it's going to happen. It might not happen as fast as you want it to happen, but you will be successful and you will find your stride, because very often you're like, man, I love this. I want to do that. And it's like, yeah, that's a great goal. But first, we got to do the journey to get there. We can't just jump into making, a Fabergé egg, day one. It's like you got to learn how to do a lot before you can even get there. And I think some of the best advice that I've gotten from my professors has been pick a project, one project like a year that really challenges you in any stage of your experience, and do that project to completion and have that as a way to challenge yourself. Because I think we get very comfortable and very cozy in like what we do, and you can obviously hone that skill and you can get better at it, but I don't think you get much better than that without challenging yourself. So I think managing opportunities of students is something I have to do. And I love it when students reach out to me after I haven't spoken to them, in a while, and they're able to show me, look at what I'm doing now, and I'm using the tools, or I'm using the techniques that you taught me, and it's really an awesome feeling for me to pass that on.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, send a shout out to somebody that Balance Samad, I believe is
Yeah,
tag on
Balance.
Instagram. Man,
Madman.
his work's gone crazy since you taught him. That's amazing. It's
He's one
really
of the
neat to see.
students. Him and Castro came from London, and they were in Vicenza with me, and an international group, and you know, metalsmiths in Vicenza, and my students, all of them. It made it so much nicer to be able to like have that experience of a very fun group of people. Made it less lonely, you know, and so
That's
I think
awesome.
it's different when you have more international sort of people that are coming from not just different parts of your own country, but vastly different backgrounds, you know. And Balance was one of those guys that, you know, he speaks fluent Hungarian, and you know, he is coming in from his jewelry background from the UK, and just understanding everyone's journey is also part of the thing that I love about meeting students, and he's done really awesome. I'm excited to see where he goes with it.
Definitely. Definitely. So what would you say is the next step for yourself and your business?
Gosh, I think, you know, I need to continue to learn. My skills are, you know, where they're at now because I have the support of my family, but also, you know, I have a lot of people that are on my cheer team, and you know, it's having that balance of being able to work and being able to make a living out of it, but also finding time to invest in yourself. And I would love to be able to travel more and to
Hmm.
learn from more people that I really are inspired by their work. A small thing of what I'm doing now is I'm really getting more into the art of hand engraving, and I'm actually doing printmaking stuff. So I'm probably biting off way more than I can chew, but I got like a large copper plate that I'm going to be hand engraving, a historic engraving. And the more I learn about hand engraving, there's another really good book for people that are interested in the art of hand engraving. It's called The Brilliant Line. It's from the Rhode Island School of Design, and you can actually read this for free on the internet. But if you like the paper copy, because there's just some massively insane, beautiful drawings. This is an engraving. You can see the amount of detail and that sort of stuff.
Jeez.
So it breaks it down into actually being more of like an art class. So you have some insanely detailed, and this, when we zoom in, we can see they're all individual lines,
Wow.
and some really funky, crazy sort of stuff too. But anyway, I would say, you know, the next step for me is pursuing more of the art side of hand engraving, and I'm really excited to do that.
And did you have any of these people that you say that you'd like to sort of travel and learn from? Do you have any of them off the top of your head? Some names?
Boy, you know, Fracassi in Brescia, Italy, they're on the level of you know, the highest form of engraving. And when you look at Fracassi's work, wow, it's
Hmm.
mesmerizing. It has engravers, you know, mouths are on the floor, you know, when they look at some of their stuff. So I think being able to learn from Fracassi would be incredible. I would love to take an individual class with Sam Alfano. He's been a long time uh, mentor and now friend. Being an instructor for GRS has allowed me to make some amazing friendships and people that I have long admired. Gosh, you know, like it would just be like this never. I could probably stay busy for an entire year of just traveling and and doing workshops with people. But man,
Amazing.
you know, and there's so many wonderful engravers out there that do stuff that's totally different than me. And I think, you know, eventually if I can go to Japan as well, that would be amazing. Castro Smith, one of my friends from the UK, who's an amazing engraver. he went to Japan and he was telling me about his experience. And I actually wrote to one of the engraving teachers out there, and they sent me some of their Japanese engraving tools, and it was just so awesome to be able to feel like a total novice again, because the way that the Japanese engraving is they will tap the chisel towards them, engraving towards themselves. So yeah.
Okay, I'm unfortunately going to need to wrap this up here, Johnny, but I really, really do appreciate your time.
No problem, man.
It's been a phenomenal talk here, mate.
It's been great.
It really has. And I look forward to checking back and maybe getting you back on the show in 5 or 6 years when you finish that big plate.
For sure. It might be that, yeah.
But until then, mate.
It's one of those big projects. You got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, thanks again. Cheers. All right, so that's the end. I want to thank everybody for listening in today. Hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. You guys should definitely be subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be putting out more of these video podcasts in the future, and you're definitely not going to want to miss any of them. I've got some other ideas for some videos that are going to be coming out soon. I've got a review of the Dado in the works, and a couple other cool ones that I think you guys are going to like. And once again, check out my website. We've got a lot of cool stuff on there, and the courses are coming out soon. The Fishtail is coming out this month, as I mentioned, and I've got a lot of other courses in the works that I'm going to be dripping out over the next, the foreseeable future. So if you got anything specific you're looking to learn when it comes to micro diamond setting, definitely drop me an email. Get on the newsletter. You'll be the first to hear about them and anything else that I'm putting out. So thanks for coming along, guys. We'll chat soon.